Hello again, everybody in GEB America podcast land. I'm David Groves from GEB, back with you. I want to say a special hello. We've had in the past few weeks so many people watching and listening from around the globe, and we really appreciate you, especially you folks in down under in Australia and as far away as Singapore. And today we have another great show for you. Be sure, though, to hit that bell on YouTube and also follow and subscribe if you're listening as audio only on either Apple or on one of the other many podcast platforms like Spotify. Today we have Anna Berry with us. She is a professional communicator, and so I've got to be on my A game, Anna, for sure. She's highly experienced voiceover artist. She has over 20 years experience in working in the communication field, and she's going to be here today to just talk to us, whether you're a salesperson or you're a minister or you're just maybe in a doctoral or educational world. I know we have a lot of students listening. She's going to teach us about highly and impactful communication. Anna, welcome.
Thank you so much. So happy to be on this platform. I love the opportunity of a virtual platform like this because it can reach people around the world.
Yeah, for sure. And we do have people that listen and watch all over. So, when we thought about having you come on, we wanted to really just give people some great information on being a more effective communicator, no matter what field you're in. But I want to hear, first of all, from you, where did all this begin? When did you first have the desire to get on camera and read scripts and kind of where did all that start for you?
Well, the origin story is always the best first question. My origin story it's almost ingrained inside of me. I like to say I was on TV before I could walk. I come from a history of actors, presenters, let's just put it generally, communicators, if you will. My mom was a TV spokesperson, host, anchor, reporter, mostly anchor for about 27 years in the market of Tulsa, Oklahoma, in which we find ourselves in.
That's right, our home base.
Right, it's our home base. Before she got into television, she was crowned Miss Texas and third runner-up to Miss America. She has obviously influenced me a lot. I grew up in the newsroom with her. I grew up on location for commercials at the big telethons that she would host at MC. I got all of her old dresses from the pageants and the telethons. Most of them are from the 70s, and her waist was a lot smaller than mine. And then the other ones were from the 90s because she was at her prime in the 90s, and the shoulder pads are just a little too big for me to wear in a fashionable way, but sometimes I can mix them up for some parties and soirees I go to. My mother was a big influence, so that is one part of my lineage. Her sister my aunt was an opera singer in Europe for 30 years. She was so fluent in German, they thought she was native German speaker. That's a whole other form of communication, the world of opera and language. So she influenced me a lot. On my father's side, my father is an actor. He was born in Hollywood next door to Clark Gable.
Oh, wow.
And John Wayne lived down the street. My dad's 85, so you can see the era he was brought up in. That obviously influenced me, as well as his mother was a very famous dancer, modern dancer in the turn of the century, dancing with Martha Graham and Ruth St. Denis and those dance troupes in New York. So I have a lot of influence. So that's why I say I was born into this world with jazz hands.
Yeah.
It's just all I've ever known to do. That's all I know.
So because of that, it just came natural to you to be comfortable in front of the camera and to be able to do like these MC events where you're in front of thousands of people. How has that been?
Well, so statistically, fear of public speaking, more people have the fear of public speaking than they do their own death. I strangely like to speak in front of people. I like the feeling of connecting, communicating. Of course I get nervous. Of course my words get tongue twisted and tied up, but I really like the opportunity to be up there and to talk or to showcase something or to tell a story or to what an MC's job is to highlight, right? To organize, to introduce. I also, as a singer and performer, I love the opportunity to kind of close my eyes and go within and allow this performance to come out of me. I love being in front of people in public and as a public speaker. And I do not have, I think the technical term is glossophobia. I do not, I'm not a glossophobic.
Well, I remember in college, I didn't take the communication speech class until my senior year, which then I wasn't fearful at all because everybody was a freshman in the class. So I reverse engineered that a little bit. But you're right. People do. They struggle with that. And I guess one of my first questions to you about effective communication today, as we kind of get into it here, is what do you think are some of the mistakes that people make in communicating their message?
I would say to your audience, and this is a general, I love that you brought in all the different people that are listening to this all over the world. If you can craft your message to make it about your viewers, it takes some of the pressure off of you. So think about it in this way. I would say the two biggest mistakes are, one, who you're speaking to. Who are you speaking to? Who are your listeners? Get very clear on that, because they're going to be asking in the back of their head, why am I here?
Yep.
Why am I listening to this person? Why should I care? So if the communicator can be really clear on that message and cater it towards them, then it's not really about the communicator, it's about them. So he or she is always bringing it back to the viewer, the listener. That is a really great way to avoid a pitfall, mistake, which is getting up on stage and just talking about yourself the whole time. Right. I mean, you can do that with certain iconic figures. You want to hear their life story, and there is value in stories. My goodness. Yeah. But if you keep bringing those stories back to your viewers, that'll keep them engaged. That's number one. I think the second one is delivery. There are a lot of famous people out there who can't deliver a message. So you do have to work on your delivery. It does matter how you come off. It does matter what you look like. You don't have to be beautiful or perfect, but you have to be presentable. You have to have vocal variety. You have to have presence. One of the many things I do is I work with a communication company. They're out of San Francisco and New York City, but they have a global reach. They've been around for 40 years. Their name is Decker Communications, and they've taught me so much. I am a communication coach for them. But they always start off with this quote, and I thought I would share it with your viewers. It's a quote from Sidney Harris, who was a journalist. So two words, information and communication, are often used interchangeably, but they signify quite different things. Information is giving out, communication is getting through. So hopefully that's an answer, a long answer to your question. How can you get through to your audience? And the two ways is to make it about them and work on your delivery, because how you show up matters how you get through.
So let's go a little deeper on that. So my next question was, what are the keys in communicating confidently? What do you think are some tangible things that everyone could do, whether you're walking into the bank or you're getting up to speak at your church? You get invited to come up and talk about something, and we see this I noticed this at my church. And so I know a number of people, they probably have been thinking about that for 48 hours because they were asked to come do that. What are some things that someone can do, just very common and tangible?
It's a great example of a church. So any pastor, anyone coming up to speak, who is your audience? We're going to get back to that. Clarity. Get clear on who your audience is. What is the state of the world? Where are people coming in from? That is important to know and to craft your message towards that. Always ask yourself as the communicator, why does my audience care? Why should they stay in the room? Why are they here? Because that's what they're asking. Why should I care? Why am I in this room? So the more you ask yourself that, the more you can craft your message. So clarity is one thing we as communicators can do. Get very clear on who our listeners are and craft our message towards them. Another valuable, easy way to understand how to get that message across is our ability to contact our audience. Example, eye contact. Now, the company I work for, Decker, they call it eye communication. We call it eye contact. In a person-to-person live setting, we coach people to look someone in the eye for 3 to 5 seconds before you move on to the next person. That's a big deal. When you think about someone talking to you and they look you in the eye, you listen, right? Versus darting your eyes all around the world. And you are making eye contact with someone. You are making contact with them. You are communicating with them. Now, in the virtual setting, I am looking at that lovely green dot. See, if I was talking like this, you wouldn't think I'm talking to you. If I'm talking like this, you'd be like, Anna, hello, I'm right here. Or a lot of people are like, hi. There's so many. We could do a whole other session on virtual communication. But it's uncomfortable and it's weird. And it makes you cross-eyed after a while, but you got to look at that green dot because I'm talking right into your soul, David. That's what this is versus over here or over here.
Well, people think you're reading, if you're always looking one way or the other, or in person, they think you're just disinterested. Right.
So contact. How do you contact your audience? Well, that is through eye contact, or what we say with Decker, eye communication. Confidence. Fake it till you make it. If you hate public speaking, then go to a yoga class, start running, doing something that makes you find your breath, find your power pose, feel confidence in your body, because your body language speaks volumes. Especially when you walk onto a stage or a platform or in a boardroom, it doesn't matter. So many people have behavioral habits that they're not aware of. So the more you are clear on your message, you make contact with your audience through the eyes, then you work on what are my behaviors that I do unconsciously. Do you sway? I'm a swivel chair, virtual issues or in-person issues. Do you sway? Do you use your hands like an Italian or a jazz performer? Or do you pedal your feet or pop your knuckles? What are your behavioral quirks, your habits that get in the way of standing still?
Good.
So that's important to find out. And the first quest of that is to find out and ask a friend or a colleague or a listener. And here's a really good fun one. I think you're going to like this one too, David. Filler words.
Filler words. Yeah, that is the crutch, right? So many people.
What's yours?
Clearing my throat like that, or a little bit of a, not your normal but a little bit of a or even doing with my tongue a little bit, and I would sometimes use my hands for podcasts like this. I actually will often hold. There's like a rung down here on the chair. I'll hold it with my hand to kind of keep my hand down, because there's no reason for me to be here. But I have some family members that have done different things on camera, and that was one of the biggest struggles. Was they were like, you have got to control your hand motions. They're like, you're just like everything, and it was hard. It was real hard for them, and I think that's where, like, a lot of people that are actors, they read a script, they get good at the script and delivering it, but when it comes to off-the-cuff remarks, maybe an award show, or getting up and giving any kind of public speaking, whether it be a foundation or a charity, they struggle because everything at this point has been about performing a role and just being themselves and speaking to the audience off the cuff is sometimes not easy.
Sure. It's not easy for any of us. That's why the more we understand what our behaviors are when we are put in an uncomfortable situation, the more we become aware, and awareness brings change.
Yeah.
It's all about awareness, bringing change so you can be clear with your message, stand tall and confident. So the filler words is a really fun example of what we all do me included. And that's, go home and ask your wife, be like, honey, what are my filler words? How many times do I say and let her count, right? Or you can do it with your kids. You can do it with your pastor. Wouldn't that be cool if he was like, hey,
Yeah.
how many times have I been up here and said so or right or like? And so that's an important way to show confidence in your message, because if you can stand up, and what we teach at Decker is instead of a filler word, pause. And I am slowly but surely retraining my brain
That's good.
to pause instead of like, I don't know what I'm going to say next, so I'm going to say a filler word until I know what I'm going to say. Just pause. It gives you, the listener, an opportunity to come back, to meet me where I am, to regroup, and it gives me a second to go, what was I saying? What's my next message? What's my pivot? Or
Right.
what are my viewers doing? Are they listening? Are they present? Do I need to break out a joke? Do I need to switch it up? So the pause can slowly but surely replace your filler words, ultimately giving you confidence on stage because you are more in control of your behaviors.
Right. I think that one of the things that I've tried to do is to really work on being measured in my responses, not being so quick to answer something. And this is a part of communication I think is not necessarily verbal, but those email or social media communications. I don't always immediately respond to an email, good or bad, because I want to really kind of digest and think it through. Sometimes I'll write it, rewrite it. And I have found at times, sometimes I just hit delete, and it wasn't that my response was going to be negative. It was just I don't know. Let me kind of just, I don't know. I call it percolating. Let me just percolate on that. Let me just kind of let it sit. And we live in a culture that is all about the quickest, person to get the news story for the tweet, or something bad happens. It's amazing. Everybody texting you, telling you, hey, did you hear this? Did you hear that? Just because they want to be first. And it's not always accurate. And sometimes it actually is very frustrating for people because they don't know what information is the real information. Nothing worse than having to follow up an email with a hey, I need to correct some things. So I think that for me has always been something I've worked on, is don't be so quick and speedy to respond in a timely manner, so people feel like that you are taking the time to read what they've said. Let me ask you, challenges besides the filler words and maybe even eye contact and things like that. What are some things you think people can do in everyday life? Just like going to the grocery store, filling up your car with gas, especially if you are not a natural extrovert. If you're an introvert, going to church, all that, going to your favorite, maybe your favorite restaurant. What are some things people can do to just better communicate and not feel like they are just, trying to skate around and avoid conversation?
One thing we also teach with Decker, but I found in myself, is to smile more. And it doesn't mean like I'm listening and I'm like,
Right.
oh, my cheeks hurt. No, it's not what my mom had to do in the pageant. She used to put Vaseline on her teeth just to keep them lubricated and like this. But when you're listening, smile. When you're speaking, smile, because it exudes warmth. And people tend to, when you put warmth and competency together, people tend to trust you. And that's the best way to communicate anything, make an impact, is when you have trust built with someone. Now, I would say a fun exercise your viewers can do, we call it wingers at Decker. You can take your partner, your best friend, your kid, your colleague, and you say, all right, we're gonna test each other out, because we're gonna become more aware of our behaviors that get in the way of our communication. So here's what we're gonna do. David, for 30 seconds, I just want you to stand up and talk about your favorite restaurant in Tulsa. Go. And you're like, oh, whoa, okay. My favorite restaurant in Tulsa is Mahogany Steakhouse because I love steak. And all of a sudden, all your weird little behaviors are gonna come up. And then your accountability partner, your friend, your colleague is gonna go, time's up, great. Do you know how many times you said in that? Do you know what your hands were doing? Do you know you were flailing around the room like a monkey? Or maybe not. David, you didn't move at all. You frowned the entire time you were talking about chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Like, it's a great way to give feedback without judgment. We call them keepers and improvements. And then you switch. Then you turn the tables. So that is what we can do just as human beings, is test each other out and work on each other, help each other be better human beings, right? A communicator is what we all are. It doesn't matter what field you're in, especially because of this thing called social media. Have you heard of it? Like, everyone has to be their own.
Oh, yeah.
TV.
Everybody's an influencer. Everybody's a content creator.
Gosh, it's so annoying. But it's where we are. So that exercise will enlighten you into, here are 2 things I do that get in the way of me effectively communicating, and you work on them. And then you'll start to see your communication skills get better with your friends, your partner, your family. And then you'll start to see it extend into whatever you do for a profession. Whether you hate speaking in public or you have to do it for a living, we all have to do it at some point. Yeah. So if we can become aware of our behaviors that are getting in the way, and then we turn it back on who our listeners are, then it'll take the pressure off, whether we like it or not, or whether it's natural for us or not, because it's just another skill set to learn.
So in the time we have left, let's talk a little bit. You mentioned social media. Let's talk a little bit about people that are listening that are business owners, or they are maybe a nonprofit or a ministry, and they want to know how to do a better job. It's not the graphics, it's not the slogans, but what are some things that you see and I know you do a lot of things in kind of the digital world. You host a digital show that deals with business matters. What are some things that you see that we need to have more of, or little tips that a business owner or a leader could use?
Well, everyone needs a ring light. They're $20 on Amazon, buy a ring light. We all need a ring light behind our computer. We all need light behind our computer in front of our face. Number 1, if you get natural light, great. If you need a ring light, great. No light behind you. You want light in front of you, shining on your beautiful face. That's important. A lot of people have bad situations when it comes to how they come off on camera. It's important. Another thing that's important is like this. It's eye level. I'm eye to eye with you. I'm not super high. I'm not super low. And I'm using my arms. I'm human. You can see that. Another thing that's important is if you are going to talk on camera, first of all, have those things set up, have good lighting, try to have good sound and audio. There's nothing worse than a CEO of a company in the back of a warehouse talking about how great his company is, and you're like, I can't hear him. Yeah. A $20 wireless microphone would have solved that. Yeah,
and now that you say that, I was watching a very popular business channel here in my office the other day, which my office is essentially converted to a studio for things like this, with all the lights and everything. And I made the comment, could you use something other than the onboard microphone? And he was on national television, sitting at his computer in his office. And that to me is an easy amateur thing to avoid.
Right. So these are just kind of like checklist items, what to do if you're going to present to a phone or a tablet device. Another thing is get to the point. This is my personal pet peeve. So many people will be like, I want to talk to you about something I'm doing today. And so basically I'm already done. I've already moved on. So you start strong. You start, welcome everyone. We're going to jump right in. Hey, this is what we're doing. Here we are. I am this. You need this. Jump right in. We know that in journalism, the headline has to be eye-catching, emotionally intriguing. The same thing with your social media presence, or the way you start a meeting, or the way you start your presentation. Jump right in. Don't tell everyone, today I'm going to tell you all these great things and make you feel.
Don't tell me what you're going to tell me.
Show me.
I want to hear it.
That's a big one. That's an important one.
we have a little section here, as you can't hear this, but my team has now changed the music. And we're now going into a segment we call Rapid Fire. We do this with all of our guests, and there are no wrong answers here. But as I tell almost everybody, you will be judged by our audience. So, in all seriousness, let's talk about a few things, because we want to hear more about, our guests, what they like and what they're into. So tell us, what is your favorite food, Anna Berry?
I love pizza. I don't eat it very
is
often, but I love
a very popular answer.
Neapolitan style, thin crust, extra cheese, crispy crust on the side, spicy oil. Yeah.
So the obvious follow-up question is pineapple, yes or no?
Pineapple juice, pineapple pina colada, but not on my pizza.
Okay, so no pineapple.
No.
I got you. Let's say, what is your favorite all-time movie?
Grease.
Grease, the original Grease with John Travolta.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely not Grease 2. Grease 1.
Definitely not number 2. I know that a lot of people don't know this, but you actually sing in a jazz band. So is that like your hobby away from work, would you say? It's kind of like your outlet?
Yeah, in 2019, I just wanted to get creative, and I really should have been born 100 years ago. I would have thrived in 1924.
In the roaring 20s.
1944. But God put me here at this time, and there is a purpose, and I pray for it every day. But I love singing different languages and singing songs from the times past. It's a fun passion project of mine.
And so besides that, what is something when you're not on camera, you're not reading scripts or voiceovers or traveling, what is something that you like to do is just kind of a hobby? I mean, is it knitting? Is it going to the beach?
I have two things that I've been doing lately. I bought a house and I have a garden, and I know nothing about gardening, but I am out there digging around and exploring. I think the beauty of a garden is figuring out how to garden, and I'm learning that. So I'm in my garden getting my fingers all dirty and trying to make some herb gardens and grow some spinach and lettuce and plants. It's just a fun new exploration of mine. And another thing I do for fun is I make hats. I've got these really cool, I love felt hats, and then I make all these cool little, I add all these little feathers and things to a hat because I have a very large hat collection, and that's a little creative project of mine I've been doing as well.
Very cool. Well, tell everybody how to find you, website, social media handles, if they want to connect, they want to learn more about how they can be a better communicator.
Sure, yeah. I'll also say if you need voiceover work, that's what I do in the comfort of my home office, as well as MC events. I travel a lot for trade shows, for emceeing all over the country. I will travel internationally. I love to travel internationally. That's why I work so hard, so I can just travel eventually. AnnaBerry.com. That's ANABERRY.com. And on social media, it's at Anna Berry Media. So
And that's a very good point there. 1 N.
1 N. Anna, like banana, but just 1 N. ANABERRY.
Well,
Media.
we have enjoyed having you on, and we definitely will. For the show notes, everybody, you'll see those links down there below in the information there on the social media links that you can best reach out to Anna and find out more about being a better communicator. And we want to thank you for coming on, and we definitely appreciate your words of wisdom, and hopefully it'll help us all to become better communicators. And hopefully I wasn't a poor communicator in my interviewing today. I tried to make sure that I wore red, and I was, on point.
You're a great example, David. Thank you for all the work you do at your station, and thank you so much for having me. I'm grateful to be here and extend this message and also practice. Every time I get to do this, I'm also practicing myself, so I'm grateful for the opportunity.
So true. Well, hey, everybody, be sure to send us a line. Let us know what you think of the podcast today. Share and follow, and if you're on YouTube, hit that bell so that you will know when we are dropping a new episode. We drop a regularly scheduled episode every single Tuesday, and occasionally some bonus episodes throughout the months. So be sure that you tune in to see us next time on the GEB America podcast. Until then, have a great day.